Welcome to another episode of How I'm Building This, where we interview startup founders that are in the thick of building their startups. We learn from their mistakes and get practical tips to overcoming challenges. Today we have Megan from Arch Insights. What's up, Megan? Thanks so much for joining. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat about my founder journey.
Of course, absolutely. Before we jump into the business, I'd love to learn who's Megan, where did you grow up, and what really got you from Bain to starting your own business?
Yeah. So I grew up in Cincinnati, and both my parents had previously worked in CPG. So grew up in kind of a consumer centric household. And my mom actually worked in market research and started her own business. So grew up around qualitative market research my whole life. But never would have guessed that I would have ended up in qualitative market research and quantitative as well. And went to Bain, spent a lot of time learning how to do analysis, how to run interviews, how to write surveys, and worked with some amazing people and corporations. I then left Bain and went to Harry's Inc., the razor company, and was on the team that launched Flamingo, which was the women's side of Harry's. And we operated as a startup within a startup. So there were around 10 of us when I started building this brand. And a lot of it came down to consumer insights and really understanding, who is our customer? What is she looking for? What are her pain points? And Harry's had a great consumer insights team as well. I learned a ton from them. And really just all the power of making these products that were really helping people. And then from there, left Flamingo, went to Harvard for business school during COVID, and then also had some experience working in VC in New York while I was in business school. And then started Arch in my last semester at school. I just love consumer insights, love understanding the whys behind why people do what they do, and just felt really drawn towards that work, and have been doing it ever since.
That's amazing. That is so cool. So very intrigued though. Are you a solo founder and are you bootstrapped today?
I am a solo founder, so just me starting it, and then I have two amazing women on my team. I could not do it without them. So I'm very lucky that they have been around for a while, and so they've very much been a part of this journey as well. I am not bootstrapped. I took a small investment right after I graduated from business school, which was I think almost 3 years ago now, 2 years ago. And then another small pre-seed check from a Chicago-based VC. Both were really relationship-based. I had built relationships with these individuals for many months before they invested. And so it was a bit opportunistic. But it's been great to have their support and their resources, particularly as a solo founder.
That's so cool. How is your journey being a solo founder? And I know it's extremely difficult. I mean, I'm a solo founder. Myself. The highs are just crazy high. The lows are just crazy low. How do you keep yourself going every single day?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it best there. The highs are really high, the lows are really low. And definitely on those days where the lows are really low, you certainly find yourself thinking, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Am I the person to be doing this? And it's really easy to let those thoughts kind of creep in. And I think that that's where having an awesome team keeps me grounded. And that's both my team internally and my team outside the company too. I have a really supportive family. Both my parents were entrepreneurs, so they've been through it. They're a call away when I'm having a bad day. My fiance is an entrepreneur. He's really supportive. And like my friends have been amazing throughout. And so I think keeping yourself grounded and keeping those people and cheerleaders and supporters in your life is so critical, because it is really hard on those hard days to pick yourself back up and keep going. And there is a lot of resilience required in being a founder. And I think creating some sort of routines in your life, and not letting some of that self-care slip, which is really easy to do. There's always, 10 more things on your to-dos. And I think making time for working out or whatever your kind of version of like recentering is so critical and not talked about enough. I think the tendency is to kind of be like, you're a founder, you need to be going like 24/7 all the time. And I just don't think that that's like sustainable. And I know I'm not at my best when I'm doing that, and I don't make time for an hour workout a few times a week or things like that. Um, it just can become really tough. And I think that the lows start adding up more when you do it that way and you don't take that time to step back and be like, this is really amazing. I'm building this thing. It's okay that everything isn't perfect 100% of the time.
I totally get it. I am. I mean, I've been getting better at it, but having that support group, having family around, having close friends around, having other entrepreneurs around who I can, reach out to and just, and just like talk shop is just super helpful. So I'm glad, of course, that you're doing that. Megan, on your website, you say uncover what consumers truly think and create products and brands that connect with them. What's that pain that you're solving and for whom?
Yeah. So I think oftentimes when you're building products, it's easy to kind of see what else are people building and what's doing well on the shelves and things like that. And that's an amazing way to think about your product process. But I think what is more interesting to me is really understanding the person better and understanding, what are they doing on a day-to-day basis? Like what are the pain points that they have? What are they going through? And when you really understand that deeply, you understand where there's moments where you can kind of intercept that pain point and build a fix for it. And I think that that's where there's a lot of power and magic and consumer insights, and a lot of really amazing products come out of really understanding those pain points that people are having. And so when it comes to new product innovation, I love doing that type of work and helping companies think about, what do we build next, and where do we build next. It's also really interesting on the branding side. We do a lot of rebrands or initial brand design for brands. And it's really fun. People have, a shade of blue makes a difference in how people perceive your brand or think about things, or it reminds them of something. And it's just really powerful to hear from your consumer, because I think you go to market with better products, better packaging, a better understanding of who you're talking to, what voice you should use for your messaging. It's just really powerful for making things that are resonating with potential consumers.
That's so cool. So, how did you go about winning your first few customers?
Yeah, it's I was still in business school, so it was my last semester at HBS, and I was kind of like, all right, I'm going to give this a go. And if I start to build a customer base, I'm going to do this after I graduate. If not, maybe this is a bad idea and I should think about going back to BC or doing something else. But I was really lucky. I had a really supportive group of coworkers from Harry's. Harry's was just an exceptional learning ground, and the people I met there were also exceptional. And many of them left around the same time or shortly after I did to go to smaller startups again. And, Harry's had kind of grown into a bigger startup, more mature. And I think there were a few people who were craving kind of that rush of the early stage again. And so a lot of them left and went to other kind of consumer goods companies, mostly in the New York area. And they were looking for consumer insights. So that's where a lot of my first clients came from, were ex coworkers of mine or friends of ex coworkers. I feel like the community among CPG and VC in New York is so strong that those referrals and those introductions were so massive early on. So very grateful for all of the people I worked with that believed in me and were willing to introduce me to their friends and other people in the industry. It's definitely, I found the connection piece is just so powerful when it comes to finding clients, finding funding, keeping yourself sane and in the grand scheme of starting a business. That sort of the connection piece is just so powerful.
Yeah, that's for sure. How did you, go about building that feedback loop with your first few customers? Now, okay, given the fact that there were connections, there were friends, friends of friends, but at the end of the day, they now became your customers who were
Yeah.
paying you, you know, hard-earned money. So how did you sort of, work with them to sort of ensure that the work that you were doing for them was really adding value, especially in those early days?
Definitely. Well, I definitely started, I kind of had a couple people where I did very low cost at first to get that initial feedback. Generally, Arch is kind of all low cost, but this was like in particular, like, okay, let's like figure out what our process is. Let's try this out. Going in kind of eyes wide open that everything's not going to go perfectly in this first like go of things. I'm going to have to figure out the flow. Luckily, because a lot of them had worked with me previously, they knew directionally what to expect from my work and what the output would look like and what they could expect. So I think that that was really helpful, and helped me and kind of thinking about what their expectations would be and things like that. But it is a little difficult where you're like, we went from being coworkers to now I work for you and I need you to give me feedback on this. And I think that's part of being a moderator in some ways, which is what I do a lot of times in my day-to-day work, is kind of like unpacking and trying to get to the bottom of like, what do people like, what do people dislike, and really getting people to try and give their candid feedback on things. And so I'm very grateful for all of them who did that early on. And it definitely helps me refine what I offer, expectation setting, and thinking through, what's the right offering for me to offer to my clients.
Very cool. Today you count some extremely cool customers. I've seen you have Cabinet Health up there as well. How do your customers find you?
Yeah. So again, a lot of it is through that connection piece. Cabinet is actually lucky enough; they've had three different employees that were ex Harrys, and so kind of built that connection that way, and then got to meet broader members of their team. A lot of it has been through kind of the ecosystem that I built for myself in the New York CPG space. And so I think, especially early on in your career, anytime that you can go a little above and beyond for other people, even if it's maybe a little bit outside of your scope or not quite exactly what you do, or people want advice on things, I think I was very open to saying yes to all of those things, both because I was hungry to learn, but also because I just liked helping people out. And it was really, I didn't do it with the intention of them coming back and being really helpful in the future, but it does tend to work that way. I have found is, people that I went above and beyond to help or build relationships with or stay up an extra hour to make sure something's done earlier or things like that early on in my career have certainly come back around and helped me out. And it's just when you care about people and you build strong relationships, it has to be genuine and you have to kind of be doing it because you really like them and want to help too. But I find that it's been tremendously helpful in introductions and recommendations, and that's how it started to grow. And I would say most people or most clients that I have today are people I worked with at Harry's, like, or 1 degree or 2 degrees away through referrals, where it's just kind of grown organically in that way. And yeah, very lucky that that's the case, and to have those people.
It's awesome. Talking about growth, Megan, like what are some of those like growth tactics that you're using today? A bunch of startup founders talk about outbound, talk about inbound. LinkedIn is filled
Yeah.
with so much advice about cold email is dead, cold calling is dead, and all of that seems to be dying out. But that being said, from your perspective, what is that what are those like growth tactics
Yeah.
look like? Is it more outbound today? Is it more referrals? What does all of that look like?
Yeah, most of our businesses come from referrals and inbound, but we have done outbound. We've done cold emails. I found it a little harder with full service market research. It works a lot better with, we are in the process of launching a new AI tool, which will be available next month, September timing. And we got a lot of responses on that. We ran some trial LinkedIn on that. We're seeing a lot of responses there. So that's really exciting. I think it works really well for more SaaS tools where there's like a very specific problem that you're solving. It takes a long time to review qualitative market research and analyze it and get back to your client. That shortens that time horizon significantly. Um, but on full service, it really is more of a relationship building process where it's, come to me, tell me what you're trying to solve. Let me help build a specific project for you, and understand, how to help you solve this problem. And so it's a little bit harder with cold emails, I've found, because you have to find someone in that exact moment where they're starting to have this problem. And unless they have a problem or an immediate need, it's a little bit harder to convince them on full service market research. However, with referrals, it's amazing because often times we get referred because someone is facing a similar situation where they're like, I don't know if we really know who our consumer is. I feel like we're feeling a little bit lost on that, or we're, working on new product innovation or working on brand development. Like, do you know anyone that can help with this? And that's been really powerful in terms of sales cycle and things like that, because they come in one like recommended and they have like this immediate need, which I think, I mean, in sales, having the need is just such a big piece of it. And it's usually the right person who's the decision maker that you're talking to. And so that's the nice thing with referrals, is you're kind of led to the person that is going to be the purchaser, which just, makes the process a little bit easier. But I'm excited to, with the AI tool, I think there's a lot of opportunity to try some of those other outbound tactics and, LinkedIn and things like that. And we've seen, like I said, some early success there. So excited to kind of test the waters there a bit more, maybe some conferences and building relationships there, which we've done a little bit to date. We go to the food conferences like Expo West and East, and we've gone to some of the market research conferences, but I always love the conferences because an excuse to get out of. I work from home, and so it's a nice chance to go out and meet people and hear what people are doing. And there's just so many amazing companies out there that it's fun to meet with, particularly the Expo West and East, all of the new food and bev founders and new brands coming to life. It's really fun to see kind of the trends and things like that in real life.
That's so cool. Referrals is of course great to have. It's, I mean, for my business as well, whenever that I get a referral, I know for a fact that there's a very, very high probability of that person, signing up and of course working with us. But it takes time and it takes great work. So you
Yeah.
must be clearly doing some amazing work. But what is that, what is that moment or that instance that you feel that makes your current customers refer you to some of their network?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think one, we work really fast. Oftentimes, when you work with a big agency, it just takes a long time. It's a little bit slower, less personalization allowed. And so we work really fast. We personalize it to the client. And I think in that personalization, we build a real relationship. A lot of my clients have my phone number. I'll get texts from them like, even like referral text, which is like amazing, where
Yeah.
you get a text. I got a text from a client the other day. She's like, "Hey, like email coming through. Like I'm going to introduce you to someone," and I was like, "Great, that sounds amazing." And I think when you have those long term clients, you build this trust where whenever it comes to mind of like, I'm going to do a consumer insights project, or someone I know is going to do a consumer insights project. Um, you know, Arch and Megan are the first things that come to mind, and I think it is that trust building during the project and taking an interest and listening to them and making it personal that does help with that. And then the last thing is the cost. I have always believed that consumer insights shouldn't cost an arm and a leg, and it often does. And so I think being able to build some of the tools that we've built to help us move faster but still do really high quality work, um, allows us to differentiate on that, which, as someone who worked in kind of like a startup within a startup, and when you're at a startup, budgets are like a little tighter. You're trying to make it work, and I still think though that there's so much power in consumer insights that companies of all sizes should have access to good consumer insights.
That's amazing. You also mentioned about getting inbound leads, etc. So, are you actively working on your inbound, call it machine? And if so, what are some of those tactics, that you're utilizing there?
We are trying to work on that a bit more. It's definitely something that I want to get better at. We've been publishing a lot of blog posts recently, so we try and do that from time to time. It's great for content on your website and for also things to publish, as you know, like publishing on LinkedIn and putting out posts and things like that. I definitely am a person that I'm always a little like, I don't know if I want to post or not. Like, kind of feels like a lot, but then I always find I don't know why I have this hesitation because whenever I post, it always gets a positive reaction, and usually someone reaches out, whether it's a friend that's like, oh, I forgot that you like we're doing this, I know someone that you should meet, or someone who's a potential client reaches out or things like that, and a lot of things come from doing that. And so we've definitely tried to increase that, and AI is really new in the market research space, and so I think there's a lot of potential for kind of thought leadership and for helping educate people on why AI can be a really nice assist to market researchers. I think right now, quite frankly, it's a little scary for a lot of people. I think there's some companies that are going after kind of replacing the person element of market research. And so I think there's an initial hesitation to AI. And I think where we've kind of approached it is really want to be an assist to the researcher. We want to be a tool that the researchers can use. It can help empower the researcher, speed up their process so they can take on more clients or spend more time focusing on the takeaways and what clients should be doing next. And so, that's where we've kind of started to put some of that content out there, but we definitely could be doing more of it, and it's something we want to do. And then we've also published a white paper too on mom's grocery shopping and cereal. That's been nice for some inbound as well, and always interesting to see where those types of things end up, and what types of companies end up looking at them.
That's for sure. You've mentioned AI and the new tool, of course, that you're building. Um, if you don't mind me asking you, how is that going to help market researchers, and what's the game plan there?
Yeah. Um, so, when I started Arch, I kind of always started it with this hypothesis that qualitative research is so amazing. You really get the whys, you get the motivations, you can really dive deep. It's a little more personal than a survey. People tend to shy away from it because it's really hard to analyze it. You have to go back and watch all the videos. It feels very subjective. You can kind of hear what you want to hear. So there's a lot of things that have kind of been ticks against it in the past. And I was like, these can be fixed. There's got to be a way to make it faster. There's got to be a way to be able to do it at more scale. And I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do it, but that was kind of like my goal going into it. And then really with the rise of all of the AI tools that are out there and all of the new technology, it really became possible. And so Arch AI is a new platform that we've built, and it's really meant to be a workspace for qualitative market researchers. You can drop in your recordings from a project and press analyze. You put in the specific things you're looking to learn to kind of help guide the analysis, and it spits back out key takeaways, and it's all supported by quotes from the conversation that you've had and video clips from the conversation that you had, or audio clips depending on if you upload video or audio. And where that's really powerful is a lot of market researchers, when they're doing their client reports, they put takeaways, but oftentimes clients are looking for those verbatims from the
Mhm.
conversation to support those takeaways to really kind of cement it in their head. And so this makes that process much easier. It also, I think, takes out some of the bias of if you're looking for, sometimes you do because people are human, you do the first call, you hear a theme, and then throughout the rest of the calls, whether you mean to or not, you might be looking for that theme and looking for other data points to support it, versus this takes them all in. It's not starting with call one, it's doing them all together. And so I think when you rewatch too, by the time you get to call 10, call 20, we're humans. You're a little tired. You might not be looking for like an aha moment or something that can be really moving in terms of like, hey, like someone raised this concern, even though it's only one person, like should we explore that? And sometimes those things get lost. And so the goal with this is to take out some of that kind of potential for human fatigue as well. And so it also stores all of the data for as long as you want on there. And so I often find that clients come back a couple weeks later and they're like, did anyone say anything about the color purple on this one? And you're like, I don't know. I'm like 3 projects past that. And you have 20 hours of video and you're like, what do I do? Do I tell them I don't know? Do I go back and watch it all? And this allows for easy searching back through that content. So you can really quickly find the relevant content that you need so that you can give your client an educated answer, which is really better for everyone. The client has an answer to their question. You feel like you've been able to provide them like a full service and answer their question. So that's the goal with it is to save that time of going back through and watching all those videos, compressing that down, but also just being a place where the researcher can go back, they can find things, and really feel empowered to answer their clients' questions.
So, what inspired you from from building a full service market research company to now bringing on a new product which is more AI focused?
So we have been using Arch AI internally now since January. And I didn't necessarily start with the plan to turn it into a subscription tool that was available for others. And I just saw how powerful it was for me. And in my research, I just was like, wow, this is really amazing. We brought in amazing engineers to help us build it. They're fantastic. I feel so lucky that they're working on this project. And it just became apparent to me very quickly that if this is very helpful for me, there's got to be other people out there where this would be helpful for them too, and cut down on some of that time that's more manual processes of like searching for quotes to pull to put in reports and things like that. And so and then we did do some like LinkedIn testing to see if there was click through and see if there was some interest in something like this. And we got enough of a positive response that we went ahead and started building it out into a subscription tool for others to use too. So hopefully people will see the value in it that we see.
That's awesome. So, what's the plan with Arch AI? I mean, how are you going to market? Is it going to be, initially selling to like your existing customers, or what are you like really thinking about getting the word out there and ensuring that people not only try it, buy it, but then keep buying?
Yeah, so I am speaking at the QRCA AI Days next week, which is the Qualitative Market Research Group, to kind of first start to show it more broadly to groups. So that'll be great to hear kind of initial responses from that. It's also nice because there's a couple conferences that are kind of very niche and that this is like a qualitative market researcher group. So you're kind of talking to a full set of people who are doing the same thing as you. So that's great. I'm excited to hear kind of the responses from that. And then there are a couple other market research conferences that we will likely attend or do tech demos at just to kind of show it more broadly. I think we'll probably use some LinkedIn ads to kind of also build a bit of a list to reach out to for demos. And then we'll probably do some cold email as well. So we'll probably kind of employ a bunch of different paths for Arch AI. I think the nice thing about it versus the full service, which is like where the approach is a little bit different, is there will be, a trial period on Arch AI. So it lets people not only hear about it, understand it, but also try it. And so I think the product is amazing. And I hope that when people try it, they will feel the same. And it kind of gives them a chance to test it out for themselves before they opt into either a monthly or annual subscription. So that's the hope there. And it'll be interesting because it's selling to a very different market than we are for full service. So up to date now, I've often worked with marketing teams or innovation teams at companies that do not have an insights team necessarily. And so that's who we've been reaching out to and connecting with. And with Arch AI, it's a really different client base because it is researchers. And so it's kind of other people that look a little bit like Arch. And so it'll be kind of a new learning for us of how do we message to them, how do we engage them, where do we find them. So I'm excited for that kind of next phase. I think the nice thing about ArchAI is I feel like the pain point solution is just so crystal clear of like pain point 20, 30, 40 hours of video solution insights in 10 minutes. It creates a pretty powerful message. And so excited to get that out there and see if it resonates with people.
That's awesome. So is the goal going to be, let's of course assume that Arch AI does phenomenally well. People are just lining up and
Yeah.
things are going amazing. What's the goal? Is the plan to now focus on Arch AI and then slow down the full service market research business? Like, what are you sort of thinking for 2025?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how people react to RJI, hopefully positively. The thing I like about continuing to do full service is I built this as a researcher, knowing what it takes to write a research report and do this type of work. And what I don't want to do is lose touch with that piece of it. And so that's what I like about continuing to do full service. So at least for now, the plan is to continue on the full service as well. Continue to learn, continue to use our tool as if we are the end client for ArchAI. I think that allows us to give a lot of feedback on it too, and continue to improve it. And I actually think that that's one of the things that differentiates us from some of our competitors is that we're doing this. We're doing it today. We built this as a solution for researchers because we are researchers. And so I think other people have taken other approaches. And so I do think that does differentiate us and keeps us relevant and understanding the pain points that our clients are going through on the Arch AI side. So at least for now, planning on keeping that going.
That's awesome. Megan, just looking back, right? I mean, as founders, I think we live and breathe the mistakes that we make almost every day.
Yeah.
What are some of those like mistakes that you've made that you wish that you hadn't?
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, there's always so many that like in the moment feel like such a huge deal. And in the grand scheme of things, they're small. There's definitely been a hire or two along the way that
Of
you
course.
have a gut feeling, you're like, I don't know if this is going to work out, and it doesn't. And that was like one of the hardest experiences I had as a founder, is having to fire someone, and no one really talks about some of those things that are not so fun about being a founder. That I would say, like, legal docs, I've gone through like a couple lawyers. It's really hard to find a really amazing lawyer that you trust if you don't know anything about legal. And I think one thing that I've learned is I kind of think of it as like a triangle of accountability. I think when I like go to hire a really important hire, or I go to pick a really important person that is like going to be a stakeholder or contribute to the company, I really try when I can to look for someone who has a mutual connection with someone I know, because I have found in those instances it is just totally different in terms of how things work out. And when I haven't done that, um, it hasn't worked out as well. And so that's definitely something I think moving forward I will continue to look for, or something I've learned from things I've done in the past. I think there's probably plenty of others. There's definitely things where like you make a mistake or like miss something, for the client sends an email and you miss it, and you're like kicking yourself for days. And it's that's the tough part about client services, is like you are kind of constantly on, and you got to make sure that you catch everything. It's a very detail oriented job, and so just like even those like little things, sometimes it's easy to kind of like get into a slump, or like sad that you're like, oh no, I wasn't like 100% perfect all the
Yeah.
time. And that's definitely something that I've had to come to terms with. And I'm learning the tech world. My background isn't inherently technical. Hiring engineers, working with engineers has been such a eye-opening experience. I'm sure there's plenty of times where they could tell you like, yeah, you were not clear on like what you wanted the first time around, and then you like we unpacked it more. And I think like now the briefs that I can write for engineers or other people that come into the company are just so much better because I've learned along the way, or I've learned like when you miscommunicate something, you don't get quite back what you were looking for, and you have to go back. So there's definitely just like so many little learning opportunities along the way that I think build you to where you are. And I'm sure there's mistakes to come in the future, but it's all part of the process.
That's for sure. You mentioned about making hiring mistakes. I know I have made them. I know a lot of startup founders, of course, that I work with have made them as well. Besides hiring folks within, of course, like your network, what are some of the other things that you were sort of going to do or hope to do that will hopefully ensure that you don't make similar hiring mistakes?
Yeah, I think often it's easy to go against your gut when you're feeling like you're really busy and you like need to get something done. And sometimes you forget to like step back and listen to your gut.
Yeah.
And usually it's right. And once you start to feel pretty sure that something is wrong, I think doing something about it, people told me like I was like, "Oh, I'm starting to feel like something might be like off with this one hire." And people were like, you gotta like make the call now. You don't trust, there's like a loss of trust. And it's like you just need to do it. And it's really tough. It's really, really hard. And I think no one really tells you that. And looking back, it was the right decision. And like I said, the two women who work for me now are exceptional. They're just fantastic. And I feel like the luckiest person ever that I get to work with them and they get to be a part of Arch. And so I think one thing that I really see in both of them that I would look for in the future is just a desire to learn. I think startups are a super ambiguous environment. And there's something new every day that I'm asking for their help on or to jump in on. And I think that there's just that openness to like be willing to do some of these things that might not fit directly in your job description or things like that is really amazing for startup hires. And I think also the ability to like kind of manage for your day to day, especially in this remote environment. I think the most amazing thing about both of them is like sometimes I'm like, I have a really busy morning. I'm like on client calls all morning. I'll come back in the afternoon and like, hey, worked on this, it's done. Like, no, we didn't directly talk about this, me doing this, but I know the timeline is Friday, so here it is. And that's really amazing. And you don't find that every day and people. And so I think just that like excitement about learning and excitement about a bit of the unknown is something that I think is really important in those early hires. And it's so amazing to have a team going from like a solo founder to
Yeah.
having another person and then having two people. It's such a game changer. And I think I waited a little bit longer than I should have to hire people onto the team. And in hindsight, I like almost wish I would have started hiring a little bit earlier just because it totally changes the dynamic and it does. It really feels like a team and a company. And there's something really powerful about that. I think making that first hire, that first step. I don't know, at least for me, that was a big step.
I see that. Megan, one thing that's not spoken too loud about is managing our mental health as founders. And I know that we spoke about this and touched upon it, like just a little bit about the highs being too high, the lows being too low. But how do you manage your mental health going through this startup building process, full service market research, Arch AI? two team members made so many mistakes, and I was figuring things out, and and we're still going through it. How do you keep yourself in check?
Oh, cut out for a second there. But it's yeah, it's hard. It's a lot sometimes and it's stressful. And I think like I said earlier, having those outlets like the gym, like I joined a gym and that was it's really important to me. Like I block it out on my calendar because it's really easy, like I said, to be like, okay, there's 10 things to do. Like maybe I don't have time today. And I would say something that's like kind of nice about my gym is if you cancel the class, they charge you for it. And so I don't know, things like any type of ways that you can kind of like continue to make sure that you like don't not do those things. And there's certainly times where, you have to pull the plug and you're like, I'm not going to make it today. Like there's client stuff and it must be done. But I said, I think I'm a better version. I think everyone's a better version of themselves if they create some space to do some sort of like physical activity or meditation or whatever kind of your version of that is. Just don't let that go in the journey because I think then you end up being more unhappy, more easily upset. Like it's just, I think, a little bit harder to remain kind of like centered. And it is, you kind of have to temper the highs and lows as you go through it. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out fully, but that's kind of been my center is like working out.
That's awesome, Megan. Um, this has been so much fun. What's next for you? What's next for Arch Insights? How can folks keep up with you?
Yeah. RJI is really the
Yep.
next big thing for
Yeah.
us. So I'm very excited about that. But you can certainly find more about our full service on archinsights.com and then RHAI at archinsights.ai, or you can get there through the archinsights.com. And then people are welcome to reach out. Megan, Megan at archinsights.com. Happy to answer any questions or talk more about my journey. I always love connecting with founders. It's always fun to kind of chat and it is a unique set of experiences that you go through. So it's always great to work and chat with others as well. So that's the best way.
Well, amazing, Megan. Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I know I will be watching Arch AI expand and and grow from the sidelines. And I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much for
Thank
giving me
you.
some time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you.